And within 6 months later, I was like one of the best in there. I just kept going. I go, it's just like the bodybuilder, the tiny little guy that, and then the fat guy. All I could do is work hard. That's kind of my thing, is just outwork everyone.
Welcome to the SGV Master Key, a show where you will hear personal stories of triumph over failures and how others successfully navigated the unique landscape that is the San Gabriel Valley. What makes us different? Well, just like you, we have chosen the San Gabriel Valley for our home or businesses or both. We believe it is the people and small businesses that make this community great, and we love to share their stories with you. We always encourage your questions and feedback, and you can find all of our contact information at sgvmasterkey.com. Here are the hosts for the show, Russell Mono and Scott Warmoth.
All right, we're back. Welcome back to the SGV Master Key podcast. Thank you for joining us. If you're a regular listener to the show, welcome back. We hope to have another exciting episode for you. And if you're new here, please consider subscribing to the show. Scott, our history and a lot of the guests have come from Matador. One of those guests who've been on here multiple times was Glenn Evans. I'm sure you remember Glenn.
Of course, yeah. We've had 2 shows with Glenn.
Yeah. He's an interesting character.
Right. Yeah. He's one of our favorites, I would say.
Sure. Yeah. And the stories that he had were just incredible, right? Like, he had so many interesting life experiences.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think back, I'll never forget him on the iceberg.
Oh yeah, when he thought he was gonna be pulled under, right? That was quite interesting. Yeah. Well, Glenn has a interesting connection with our guest today. Our guest says that they are, in fact, really good friends. But we'll learn a little bit more about their connection. But today our guest is also from the gym, but he has another side to him. His name is Jesse James Youngblood. He's an actor and a health and fitness expert. Jesse, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
I'm excited.
So we know you are in the San Gabriel Valley now, but have you always been in the San Gabriel Valley?
I moved here, I want to say 90, 91. And I used to live in Whittier, and I used to train in Whittier and in Venice, and I would commute. At those days, it was bodybuilding was like a certain gym had a certain arm stuff, you would go there. Another one had certain leg stuff, and so sometimes I would just jump off the freeway, and there was right here on San Gabriel Boulevard, right down the street. It used to be called Astro Gym in the 80s, and then it was Gold's later on, just right down the street here, right by the railroad tracks. So I would go there all the time, and I kind of like over here. The mountains are right here, versus Whittier. It's like lost in there, no freeways close by. Yeah, and then I was there, not a regular, but maybe 3 times a week I would train there, and I met a lady in there, which became my wife, and she lived in that area. And I said, wow, this is kind of, I really like this area. By the foothills, got the Rose Bowl. I love the homes, the Craftsman's, and so ended up moving out here, and I've been here ever since.
So just back up a little bit. So you grew up in Whittier?
Yes, sir.
And what was that like, your childhood there?
Well, it was interesting. It's got the good, the bad, and the ugly. We lived in my mom married this gentleman, very wealthy man, and we lived in the California Country Club, which was, a lot of people don't even know that that's part of Whittier. And then that was like 1976, and then like 78, then they started busing. So all the kids, and I was basically the only brown/red kid in the area. Everybody was white, kind of upper class. And they would bus us to not so good part of town. It's the part of Whittier that's not very good. It was a lot of gangsters, and so it was a culture shock to me, even though I'm brown like them, but I wasn't raised like them, so, I had to deal with it. And again, I was small. They'd steal my lunch money, and, a little bit of all of that until I finally stood up for myself. But, and then time went on in high school, and my mother and my stepdad had divorced. So as of 16, my mother had a little bit of mental illnesses and stuff. So she wasn't there basically I was been on my own since I was 16 years old. The day after grad night, the locks were changed, and all my clothes was in on the driveway, and I was on my own.
Wow.
So,
She put you out?
Yeah. She didn't go to my graduation or grad night. I went to come in at, I don't know if you know what grad night is. It's where all the kids go to Disneyland right after graduation. They stay there all night, and in the morning the bus brings you back. Came to put my key in, and all the changes were locked. The locks were changed, and
Wow.
so it was tough, but I made it. Yeah,
Wow. At 16 years old.
yeah.
And you didn't even know that was going to happen.
No, lucky I had a very good friend of mine. He was my best friend. His mother always was there for me, almost like a second mom. She took me in for a couple of years.
It seems like it's a pretty painful memory for you. Wow, I can't imagine that. I mean, 16 is, you don't even hear kids going on their own in their mid-20s now.
Yeah, you graduated early, didn't you?
Yeah. I grew up very fast, Luckily that during that time when I had my stepfather there, he saw what was going on with my mother and I, so he would take me to work with him. I'd go to the gas station with him at 8 years old, and because he just wanted me away from her. So during the gas wars, like in 73,
Yeah.
or 75, right in there, so I'd go, the little kid, checking oil, putting gas in, and he taught me work ethic.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, so by the time, I was 16 years old, I had just saved all my money, the tips. And, look at the cute little kid. And they'd give me, $1. $1 in the 70s is like $10 now, and just saved my money. What was a kid going to do with it? Bought myself almost a brand new car when I was 16, right before I was out, and he's the one that showed me how to save. And so I owe that man a lot.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, there's so many things I want to get into. The listening audience doesn't get to see you, but they can hear your name. And I remember asking you, I said, Jesse James Youngblood, is that your real name?
Yes, it's actually my, excuse me, my last name is Flores, but my grandmother's maiden name is Youngblood. So it's still a blood name. And then when I became an actor, Jesse James Youngblood sounds way better than Flores. And it's a given. It's a blood name.
It's an exotic name.
Mm-hmm.
It's a...
Yeah, and it's, I've done... It's a pretty powerful name, and I try to live up to it in everything I do.
Yeah.
Is that of Native American origin?
Yes.
What
Tribe?
Tribe, yeah.
It's me, Yaqui from the Southwest. Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, even trickles into Sonora, Mexico. We're like the second cousins to the Apache, the Comanche, same regalia, same nomad, way of living.
So was that a big part of your life growing up?
Actually, it wasn't too much. My mother moved us from Texas from my father because he was an alcoholic and a womanizer. He just wasn't a good person. So, and that side of the family wasn't very good. So, one day she just had enough and packed us up, and we moved. First, we went to New Mexico for a little bit. I don't think it was a year, and then Arizona for a few months, and then we ended up with her brother, which is my uncle, in Whittier. He lived in the nice part of Whittier, and so we lived there for about a year and a half till my mom got on her feet. She was a beautician, and she was very good at that. So then she met my stepfather. So really good. That's the one who
took care of you.
Yeah, great man, Jim Traby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And is he still?
You know what? He passed away about 3 years ago. But we used to come out, before I even knew what the San Gabriel Valley was as a kid, we used to come because in Temple City, all his brother, which is my uncle, and all my cousins all lived here in Temple City. So we used to come, on weekends and hang out with the kids, and, the parents would do their thing. Yeah. So that's the first time I really got introduced to the San Gabriel Valley. But I was a kid. I didn't think anything. I just thought, okay, I get to see my cousins.
Yeah, right.
Ride bikes, hang out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other part that I wanted to get into was you said that you were bullied when you were younger.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, it was rough, because I was always small, the smallest kid in the school, and I wasn't athletic. I tried, and I probably could have been pretty good, but again, my mother would put me in baseball or something, maybe one game or two games. Yeah, you're not going no more. So I,
wow.
I didn't get to do any of those things. So, at school, and I was small. Well, put it to you this way: when I was 21 years old, when I met Byron, I was telling you about. I was 21 years old. I looked like a little girl. I weighed 112. I was that small.
That's pretty small.
Yeah.
And
so
how tall are you?
5'7". So that was another. Look at this. I had a lot of friends because I have a personality, and I'm a good person, I think. But you still get those people that just do things or
right.
So can you identify the point in your young life where you're like, I'm gonna do something about this?
Yes, I want to say I was 21 and I used to work at this factory. It was Carnation. That was the last job I ever had, actually, since fitness. It was in 1984. And I would go to this, and there's a guy, his name was Jesse, and he was working. I was kind of built, and he says, let's go work out. And I kind of like look at him, work out? What am I going to do? He goes, no, man. I go, they make fun. And he goes, no one's going to bother you. You just come with me. So we trained, and I didn't try to know what I was. He was kind of guided me. He was good. And I kind of looked at my arm. I saw a vein pop out, and I go, wow, Jess, check this out. He goes, yeah, that's called a pump. He goes, it'll go away in about an hour. But if you keep coming and eating the way I teach you, and I go, wow. So I kept on, and then I got obsessed because I thought this was really cool. I just was growing and growing, and the people in the gym environment, especially in the 80s, it was really fun time to be part of that culture. And so I just kept going and going, and this sounds crazy, but I started in the summer of 84. By the next year, the summer of 85, I weighed 216 pounds.
100 pounds in a year.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I was like but it was, because at first people told me, you're so small, eat anything, versus, like we eat clean. And so they said chicken. I go, grill. He goes, no, just eat. So I would go into that Carnation warehouse with a bucket of fried chicken, the biscuits, the gravy, everything. And everybody would say, hey, Pollito's here. They'd call me Pollito. That means little chicken, because I eat chicken all the time, and I was small. Hey, you bought us all chicken? I go, no, this is for me. I would eat that whole bucket and all that, and and then I would sneak off in the warehouse of Carnation, because we had every ice cream that you can imagine. Ben and Jerry, you name them, not just Carnation. It was like a distributing place. I would eat like 6-10 ice creams a day. So I was big. I was I was big and smooth.
I thought you put on 100 pounds of muscle, but you just put on 100 pounds.
Well, I looked to my friends in Whittier. I was like Arnold, because I was squatting 550. I had 28-inch legs. I was big, but I was smooth.
Wow.
I was infatuated with bodybuilding, so I read all the books and I did it. And I hung around. The San Gabriel Valley in the 80s was the mecca besides Venice. It had, I could name tons of pros that came out of this area. And so I was just kind of tagging along. The it goes on and on, the San Gabriel Valley in the 80s, how huge it was.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So I
For reference, how much do you weigh now?
I weigh 200.
Really?
Yeah, this is what I would look like in the off season, and then I would prepare for a contest. And 3 months later, the first time I went, I'll go back. So I got this big, and then I was training at like hardcore gyms, but not real hardcore. And there's this one in Whittier called Uptown Gym, which everybody in there looked like a small dinosaur. Everybody was huge. There was no mainstream people in there. They would get intimidated. And I used to drive by there and look at when I was 120, 125. I go, when I get to 200 pounds, then I'll go in there. And I used to see these big guys come out with you know how old school bodybuilders, you carry a jug of water, not a little thing like that, the meatheads. And I just go, okay, it's time. I went in there. I go, wow, look at all these gorillas. And it was all homemade gym equipment. The gentleman that owned it was very mechanically inclined. So we had up 300-pound dumbbells that he made, the leg press that he made, the whole cables, everything in there was handmade. Wow. It's still there. It's amazing, from going to like the beautiful equipment we have at Matador to that primitive, but I mean, it worked. Wow. So I walked in there one day and I started working out, and then I I didn't really know what I wanted to do in life. I didn't want to work at the Carnation forever, you know. So it's called Fred C. Nellis, a correctional facility in Whittier, and it was for the worst kids in America that are 16 and under, rapists, the Bob's Big Boy murderer, you know, the worst of the worst kids were there. So I said, oh, maybe I'll do that, you know. So I would train there I was probably there 3 months, and then a gentleman walked in. His name is Steve Bonstead, and he was a Mr. USA, Mr. California, and he walked in. Everybody's just like, wow. Because everybody was champions in there, but this was another goat, level, so to speak, yeah. And I kind of never got in awe with like that, you know, or autograph, or I just, you know, or shake your hand, come up. I just mind my own business, you know, and I was intrigued, but just don't let it be known. And then the owner tells me, hey, Jess, I know you're taking the test to work at Fred C. Nellis pretty soon. Why don't you ask Mr. Bonstead there? Maybe he'll groom you. He just got transferred there from the facility in Venice. I go, really? You think he would? I go, he's a nice guy. Ask him. So I went up to him, introduced myself, and sure, kid, I'll help you. You know, so I'd see him there daily, and maybe a week went by, and I saw him angry one day. He was cussing and this and that. And then I saw him angry a second day, and then a third day. And on the third day, he says, hey, Jess, hey, kid, come here. I go, me? He goes, yeah, come here. You want to be my training partner? I go, what about that guy you train? He goes, he's a lop. He goes, that's like a prison term of just a jerk, I guess you'd say. Okay. I'm cleaning it up.
Yeah, so, right.
He goes, I'll give you 3 chances though. Like that guy, he's done. You can't be late. You gotta be on, you know, this, and I go, okay. I'd be there a half hour early with coffee for him, you know, and we became buddies, and man, he taught me but I was big and smooth, and to everybody in there's a lot of smoothies in there too, so I fit right in, but at the same time, but he liked people to look like a champion year round.
So describe to the listener who may not know, what does that mean, big and smooth? How would you?
Big and smooth means when you're trying to build a physique, I mean, you don't follow the proper nutrition, you may get stronger, it may look a little bit different, but your body it's smooth. It's like a baby. A baby has no definition. So that's what the term of bodybuilding is. He used to say sometimes he would see someone so smooth, and he would say, that guy couldn't buy a cut, you know. So he was very hardcore, and he trained with me, and he'd tell me, okay, back then cardio wasn't cardio, it was called aerobics. And he goes, and there was only 2 little bikes there, not like we have, those ones that you adjust with the tight wheel, you know, an old Schwinn from like the 80s, 70s maybe, you know, and there was only 2 of them, and he'd ride one, and he'd come on, let's do some aerobics. Like, I'm doing that. That's what's that? Well, I just said, I'm not going to do that. I don't like that. And he said, okay. And then one day I was bored, and I got on with him for like 40 minutes, and then I did it again. About 10 days went by, and I started to see definition, not being so smooth. And I go, hey, check this out. And he goes, yeah, you just keep doing more and keep following what I tell you to eat. And, you know, we train 6 days a week. And he goes, and you will see something. And then every month, I just probably 7-8 months into it, he asked me, hey, I think you're ready for a contest. I go, contest of what? Bodybuilding. What do you think? Me? He goes, yeah, you. He goes, you work harder than anybody in this place. You got it all. You got heart. You got drive. You're enthused. You love the sport. You're hungry. And so he used to call me. He called me Jess, but a lot of times until when I was real smooth, to him that's fat. You know, so to the real trained eye, so he'd call me Donut. He said, hey, Donut, you gonna come over here and do this? You know? And I would laugh. He didn't mean anything by it. He was just joking. And so I went from 216 to my first contest where I was so shredded. I was a kid, and I came against, there was firemen and cops, and you know, and they were all, you know, behind the scenes. They all have their sweatshirts on, their bigger mustaches. They're grown men. I was still pretty young man, and I got intimidated, and I come out the back room, and I say, hey, Steve, look, guys, man, this, He goes, don't worry. He goes, wait till they take off their shirts. And sure enough, I was the runt of the class on a middleweight. It's 156 and a quarter to 176 and a quarter, and I barely made 156. But I was so shredded.
156 from cutting from 216.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was so shredded, I made the big cops, and everybody looked smooth. They look, to the untrained eye, they look beautiful like statues. But I was so sliced and diced that, it was. I won. I was so, and it was an amazing feeling. The first time I'd ever won something, done something of value to me.
Wow, that's awesome.
And then you have always the doubters, because also too, we would train in Whittier in the morning, and then at night we would train twice a day. We'd commute to Venice, and that's how I got to meet the who's who. I worked with Arnold. I've worked alongside with a lot of the top bodybuilders from the 60s and 80s, and they were all in my wedding, famous wrestlers.
Was that all at Muscle Beach?
Well, Muscle Beach is almost touristy. They'd go out there just to get a tan and get a pump here and there and show off, but Gold's Venice and World Gym, which was owned, Joe Gold sold Gold's and started World Gym, and they were both like a block apart. So we would train back and forth at either gym. And then so I'd go back to, he goes, I don't want you training here at Whittier no more. I go, why? He goes, these are my friends here. He goes, these aren't your friends. He goes, these are all jealous, envious people. I can tell the way they look at you and stuff. And you get to go with me over there. They're very jealous. I go, okay, so they saw me always go, when we train it's almost like a masterpiece. When you're training, you always cover up with the sweatshirts. You don't reveal.
Oh, is that right?
Until the final product, then you take the robe off. So, and they saw me at 200 and something smooth, and then I came back like a week before my contest to talk to the owner of Uptown and just kind of show him what I was up to, and everybody was like, "Who's that?" Because I was unrecognizable, from that big guy to the shredded guy, and is that Lee Labrada? It was a top bodybuilder back then. He goes, no, that's Jesse. Jesse? That's not Jesse. Yeah, it is. So I won that weekend. That was Mr. Golden West. And then I became obsessed even more, like a trophy hunter. Most guys will do maybe 2 shows a year because it's hard to keep that body. But to me it wasn't. I was like, I like doing this. I like looking like this.
So what happens in a show? What do you do? How do you compete?
Get in your entries in there, and you'll see anywhere in your weight class. There's bantam, lightweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight. And in each class, there'll be anywhere from 10 to 50 guys up there in a lineup, and they all line up in your posing trunks in the morning at 9 a.m. The judges will be they'll look at everyone, and they'll say front double bicep, a pose, and everybody does it. Quarter turn to the right, and you do a side chest, or quarter turn, then you do a lat spread. It just goes on and on. They keep spinning you around. And then when all of a sudden you'll see them, they'll say, okay, number 32, get to number 16. The ones in the middle, now they start putting the top 5 in the middle. So if you're way on the end, you pretty much know you're not going to. And I was right away, I always put in the dead center. And then they check for symmetry. You can be, bigger than the other guys or this, but the symmetry has so much to do with it. Your stage presence, how you carry yourself, and then just the more definition you have, it means you did your homework. You know more. You're like a scientist.
So they're
to get
just
that
looking
way
for definition, and part of it is kind of a beauty.
It is. It's
show
to look at you. Yeah. You want the body to look pleasing to the eyes, feathery, just a beautiful statue, a human statue that moves. So that was my goal, and that was how we would look at our physiques.
Joseph describes workouts for him, anyways, as therapy. He says it's therapy.
Exactly.
And when he told that to me, I said, yeah, it's been my therapy from a very young age. And you can look at people and see that they're driven by some internal fire, right? And now trying to rid myself of any type of poor or behaviors that are not healthy for me. I don't want to use it to avoid feeling something, right? I want to process that healthily. But for you, what was that your therapy? What did you channel your struggles into that?
Pretty much, yeah, because that was my safe home, safe heaven, however you want to put it. And it was an arena that I was just of people that I like to surround myself with, and it was. And even to this years later, when I had something personal happen or something, instead of, I'd be depressed, but instead of moping around at home or something, I go to the gym, and that just, again, therapy just gets everything out, and you feel better. And it's like a drug to me. Makes, injected me with some nice feelings,
Oh, speaking of drugs, I wanted to ask you, it's no secret now that those guys like Arnold and Lou in the 80s were on the juice. Did you know people that were using?
Oh yeah, to be at that level, you have to. It's 1 in a million that can get up on stage. You may see this beautiful physique and ask them, and they're not going to tell you the truth, because it's, people look down at that. But I know, I can tell by the texture of the skin, the shape of the muscle, the age of the muscle is grainy. It looks more mature. It's just I can tell right away if anyone tries to lie to me, because I've been around it for so long. So
you can look at someone and say, oh, this person is using.
I could tell you pretty much what they're using too, and how long they've been using it.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I can see that too, but how long and what? No, I couldn't tell you that.
It's again, to take it to that level where I was, you become a doctor. I mean, I had the best chiropractors, sports medicine. I had a sports psychologist, and then I had the best mentor here, and just, I would do things in the dark, my posing, just to, I guess you'd call it kind of therapeutical, So you become like a doctor, I would have, actually, I have sports medicine doctors call me and ask me for advice to give to this athlete here or something, because I was around the sport and surrounded by the best of the best for so long, and I picked everyone's brain. Like probably when I was 25, I was already a champion and be 15 titles under me. And someone, I remember, asked me, how many years you been doing this, or how much experience do you have? I said, at least 50, 60 maybe. We're only 20 something. Well, I hang around with this gentleman here who has 30 years experience, this one 20 years experience, and I learn from all of them. So there's my experience. So yeah.
Jesse, we ask each guest to bring with them an item of significance. You pointed at it several times, but what did you bring with you?
This one is right before my first contest. Steve was on the cover of Gold's Gym Calendar.
Oh, could you show that to the
1989?
Camera, who is this?
This is Steve Bonstead. This is my mentor, who taught me everything I know, and the work ethic I learned from him was just, I mean, I didn't even tell you, but I used to own a gym. I had a clothing line. I've had like 4 careers, and every one was successful. It was to him, because he taught me how to. And which is really special to this is you can read it, and it's those words there. So that's my past and present item that I treasure, because it's the past, but at moments in my life now that aren't going well, he's like a father. I have that in my.
Is he still with?
No, he passed away a few years ago. So he, I talked to him, and I read that, and that just, when from reading that, it just, okay, today's was a rough day, but tomorrow will be better, and I can just visualize him talking to me when I had rough times, and he was basically the only one that was there for me, because even your family and stuff, when you're doing activities like I was, everybody, what are you still doing that muscle stuff? Yeah, it's my career. I make money. They don't know. They just think it's a guy lifting weights. I go, what do you think I just do? Move around furniture and look like this?
So was this written in 1989?
Yeah. So those words right there, that's before my contest, and it just gave me the drive to. I didn't want to let him down. I was like, all the family members all put together that I didn't have.
Wow.
Even there was times when I didn't have money for food, because and I could do it cheap because I would buy, the boxes of chicken at one time. Everything was store brand, cans of tuna, potatoes, but still, you're a young kid, you got rent, and there's some times, and he just said, "Here, little buddy," he'd give me some money, "Go buy what you need." "Okay, I'll pay you on this." "No, you're not going to pay me. He's just a great guy.
Yeah.
So that's my past and present.
A really heartfelt writing.
Yeah.
It meant something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. This is a look into a world that I think many people don't know, right? They don't know the backside of things. They don't know what's going on beneath the surface. And even now, all they may know is like from pictures or promoting product, or maybe they see a video of a show, but there's a lot that goes into it.
Yes. Like I said, it's a science, and it just takes so much discipline
There's
to
a real
do that.
camaraderie, isn't there?
Yeah, and it is.
Kinship.
It's like in Venice, it was like a 4-mile radius. People would come from all over the world to train there. You'd be here, say, there'd be Mr. Mexico here, Mr. Sweden here, Mr. Italy. They come from all over the world, because even though they're the champions in that country, in the world of bodybuilding, you're an amateur still. You have to be seen and promoted and everything in LA. So you have to start off with the Mr. Los Angeles. If you win that, then you qualify for the California. Then you qualify for the USA. And then those guys are, trust me, they look beautiful already, champions. But to be marketed and promoted, you have to do it here. So there would be all these foreigners, I guess you'd say, from all over the world. So it was neat. They all spoke different languages. They all had the same goal. And they only said a little 4-mile radius. They don't know anything else. I talked about baseball. What's that? I got married at Knott's Berry Farm. We had a Native American wedding. There was a little church from South Dakota that was moved from the mountains over there to Knott's Berry Farm. They had native dancers, and so it was all cowboy and Indian attire, and 2 or 3 of them ended up in Disneyland. I go, how could you? They don't know. That's all. It's kind of, it's not really productive to have a life like that. That's all you do, But that's how they lived. So the beauty with me, though, I was already lived all over and done this, and good, bads, and uglies in my life. So I would get, and I'd come home to Whittier or in San Gabriel Valley, and then I'd commute. But I would spend the night there a lot of times with them, and it was just fun. We all go to eat at the same places. All the restaurants there cater to fitness. It'll tell you the calories, the fat grams, and you see nothing but stars in there, from Academy Award winners to Mr. Olympias to dancers. It was fun. You go in, Hulk Hogan, you name them, you'd see them in there.
I noticed on your picture there's also another picture.
Yes.
Can you describe that?
Yes, this was...
Is that you?
Yes, this is me. This used to be this was my hang tag on my clothing line.
So can you describe it for the listener?
Yes, this is this is a sepia tone. It's made like the 1800s photos. And I don't know if you know who the Barbarian brothers are. If you don't, look them up. They're just amazing. They're 2 twins that came in the 70s, and they trained there with Arnold, and they were just these 2 beautiful pieces of art. You'd see them. They were on the Gong Show. They had these B-grade movies they were on all the time, because you look at, back then, people with muscles were looked upon like big dummies. Like, all we do is lift weights. These guys were artists. They were amazing, and they went on to do huge things. And one of them became an art photographer. One day I just won a contest, and I was in Venice getting some dye or something for skin, for tanning stuff, and I had seen him there. He was actually one of them. It's David Peter Paul. They're heirs to the candy Almond Joy.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they don't have $1 because they didn't want to be in the business, so their parents disowned them. So they went out there with one day, maybe another time I'll show you the picture of the car. when they came in. It was like a 1974 Toyota Corolla. It looked like it came from the junkyard. I don't know how, these guys weighed over 300 pounds. I don't know how they fit in that little car, but they drove it. So anyways, one became a really top photographer, and he just saw it. He goes, "Hey, you're Steve's friend, huh?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "You Indian?" I go, "Yes, sir." "What tribe?" And he just intrigued by the Native American culture. "Well, you know, I do. I'm a photographer for different cultures." Like he would say, if you're African American, he would put you in African American attire. If you're Persian, you know. And he goes, "Do you mind if No. So we did a photo shoot. There's a series. That one, there's like 6 of them. We sold them all over the country. Greeting cards, posters, galleries, and, you know, Sedona, all the Southwest there where it's mainly liked more than around here. And the company was based out of Canada. And it was called New Reflections. It was on calendars. I was on a calendar. They had like a traditional calendar and like a hunk.
Oh, yeah.
A Native American hunk every month. So yeah, I was on there like 5 years.
Let me describe this photo. So it is sepia tone, but it's you. You're wearing like, I would say less than briefs.
Yes.
On a horse, and you have war paint on, and you're holding looks like a
Tomahawk.
A tomahawk, and you have this looks like a mohawk, except it's not really.
It's a headdress. It's called a roach. They're made out of porcupine. The Native Americans from the East Coast tribes have a lot of that, and it's porcupine hair, and you know, and the quills, I should say. And so I would wear that, and then from that culture, all these years, I would always. Most people, they go to on set or something, you know, you get dressed by wardrobe, but I've just been collecting regalia and stuff my whole life. So everything I have in my shoots is pretty much mine, you know.
Wow.
I have my home. I have buffalo heads. I have skulls everywhere. It looks like you're going to Taos or New Mexico, anywhere, Santa Fe. It's really fun. And so I just have all this stuff, and I use it. I use it as props.
Cool. Well, Jesse, I know in addition to your fitness career and your bodybuilding, you've also done some acting, right? So
yes.
Before we get into that, though, let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsor, Warmouth Law. At Warmouth Law, they believe that just because you speak a foreign language, come from a different culture, or simply don't know how to navigate the legal system, that should not prevent you from compensation from injury or receiving benefits. They've been helping SGVers like you for over 38 years. Visit law888.com or call them today at 626-784-7017 and tell them you heard about them on this podcast. All right, we're back with Jesse. Jesse, so you're an actor?
Yes, sir.
How did you get into that?
I used to train Marley Matlin, who's Academy Award winner. I was a strength coach for the Dallas Cowboys, 92 through 94. I trained a lot of celebrities. Dallas Raines, our weather guy, trained him for a few years. And they would always tell me, you know, you have this certain look, you should, you know. And I just kind of just put it, okay, thank you. You know, I didn't say anything about it, and I didn't think about it. The year 99/2000 was my last year of bodybuilding. I've done everything I wanted already. So in that time, I also purchased a gym, so I was a part gym owner. And then I was doing these projects with the Inner City Youth Games too, and I would with Arnold and Lou and you name them all, Jay Leno, all the top actors would go and work on this thing for kids. So I was surrounded by the acting world, and then again, bodybuilding world was over. I sold a gym, you know. I don't like being there. I have to be there every day. I like the way we have it. We come when we want, you know. And so I just said, you know what, I'm gonna try acting. So I was training Derek Luke at the time. I don't know if you know who he is from Antoine Fisher's Story, Friday Night Lights, and I said, hey, you know, a good acting coach? He goes, why? He goes, I'm thinking of, you know, taking some classes. And his wife was there, and she's an actress. She goes, you need to go see Alan Feinstein. He's perfect for your personality and stuff. So I went, and I loved it, but I was terrible. Oh my gosh! First of all, I had gone to my wife at that time, and then I told her, this is what I'm going to do. I saved enough money for 2 years. If I had to make another $1, we'd still be fine with our bills and everything. I'm going to give this a 2 to 3 year plan. And if it doesn't work, then I'll just go back to what I do. She goes, she goes, everything you've done, you've succeeded, so go for it. So I did. I went, and just people don't realize in front of that camera when you're going over lines and you're green, turn red, you're stuttering, and I was awful. But I committed. I had paid already for the month. I kept going. It was 3 times a week. I was going 20 hours a week of acting classes. Yeah, so that's how I got into it, and then I got better and better and better. I remember one time I went to this red carpet party, and I invited my friend. And after we went to the party, we're at dinner, and there was a lot of people from my acting class there. And there was this one girl, she's like the best one in the class. And my friend Antoine asked her, "Hey, how's Jesse? Is Jesse any good?" And that girl goes, "He's the worst I have ever seen. But I got to give him this. He's made the most improvements out of everybody in that class." And within 6 months later, I was like one of the best in there. I just kept going. I go, it's just like the bodybuilder, the tiny little guy that, and then the fat guy. All I can do is work hard. That's kind of my thing, is just outwork everyone.
So what did that lead to?
So I started going to classes, and then I would do, at the beginning, you have to do all these little projects. I mean, it was never an extra, but I would do History Channel things and I was Native American, so sure enough, they put you on a horse, running around, shooting, just stereotype. I go, this is not what or I'd be like a gangster, shooting and mugging.
I tried to describe you, and forgive me if I mean, like I said, have you ever seen, do you know who Danny Trejo is?
Yeah.
And I didn't know, but you know Danny Trejo.
Oh yeah, I'll show you pictures of him. I've worked with him. So I'm a younger, better looking version. Sorry, Danny. Anyway, so yeah, I'd already had a little for my reel. I had done maybe 10 little projects, and then one day I'm at Gold's Gym, and I don't know if you know who Zack Snyder is. He did 300, all the Marvel comic movies. He's one of the best. And one of my friends used to train him, and he'd always see me, and it's excuse me, I saw him kind of staring at me one day, and he just walked up to me. He says, "Hey, I'm Zack Snyder. What's your name?" And I told him. He goes, "You ever thought about being an actor?" I go, "Actually, I've been taking 20 hours of acting classes for the last 3 months." He goes, "Really? Who do you study with?" And I told him. He was impressed. He goes, "Yeah, you just got this face. You're just a great character face." And he goes, "You got headshots?" I go, "Yes." He goes, "Bring it in Monday. Maybe I can use you one day." So maybe about 2 months later, he calls me up. "Hey, we're doing like a trailer / promotion thing to try to get this movie off." Before it was called Moonlight. I forget what it was, but it meant "Bring It On" in Greek. It wasn't 300 yet. And they pitched it everywhere. Universal, everybody, they all laughed at it. They said, excuse me, because Gladiator and the other one that came out with Brad Pitt. Troy. They had been out. They go, "Oh, those are already made. We don't need another one of those." So we did a little mini trailer. They kind of laughed it off, whatever. And then we did a bigger one, a really cool one. And he says, "Come on down." He goes, "So you're one of the Persian generals." So Warner Brothers picked it up. And about a month later, he calls me. He goes, "Pack your bags. We're going to Montreal." And I was very blessed. There was only 4 guys from the U.S. that he handpicked, because they save money when they hire in that country, through the union, and plus they wanted accents. So yeah, so they only I was me, Damon, which was the stunt coordinator, which is Zach's best friend, and one other gentleman, a stuntman. Actually was a stuntman / actor. That was my third. I started out doing as a stuntman, and then...
Was that a speaking role?
It was, but I did speak, but I don't know if you ever saw the movie. It's narrated, so there's a voice. You see my mouth move and stuff, but it's talked over, narrated over. But it was a good piece.
That's actually the first time I've ever heard. I mean, people wanting to come to California, Hollywood, have an acting career, but they're just hoping that some producer sees them and it's like, you look like someone who should be in a movie, right? But it actually happened for you.
And it's interesting. It happened even prior, before, like, I want to say this was probably 1990. I was in Venice, and there's this gentleman in there. He walks up to me. He goes, "Wow, look at your physique and this and that." And he goes, "Hey, you ever thought about being an actor?" I go, "No." He goes, "Well, give me your name." And he called me the next week. And do you remember that show In Living Color with Jim Carrey?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great show.
It was and I don't know if you remember the ones where he dresses up like a female bodybuilder, Venus de Milo, and he poses. And he called me up. I was on that show. I was one of the leads.
Really?
Yeah, so
Wow.
I made $700 in a few hours. I thought I robbed a bank. I was so
How
excited.
many times did you get to appear?
Just that one episode.
Okay.
And then he got me another job to play Owl Eyes in this Native American with co-starring, well, she was the star, Kelly Preston. Remember, I forget his name, the Grizzly Adams guy?
Yeah.
He was part of it.
Bud Adams? I don't remember his name.
But it had a lot of big stars. But it was gonna be a great movie. But I actually got but I auditioned for the lead, the one who falls in love with Kelly Preston. I was so terrible. I hadn't taken no acting class, and I didn't. He just go, you'll do it. And then he calls me and he goes, "Jess," he goes, "I was green." And I goes, "Yeah, I'm very green." He goes, "But you know what? They still like you. So you're just going to get another." I got still be in the film, but just riding horses, terrorizing, you know. Yeah. Playing a bad native, but
well, was acting interesting to you, or
no?
It's boring, isn't it?
It was fun at the beginning, and then I had a bad experience on that. So I already knew I wasn't good, and I said, "I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go back to my comfort zone with my bodybuilding," and I did. But that on the set of the In Living Color, I had a bad experience with this gentleman, again, bullying me, you know. He was one of the actors, and he looks at me and he says, you know, I had skin problems since I was a kid and stuff, and, you know, he looks at me, he never even met me, and he says, "Hey, Scarface," you know, and then he said something else, and I didn't want to start any problems on the set, you know, and I could have handled myself then. I was big enough, but I just ignored him. Wow. And I go, "This is what it's going to be like, and I have to deal with." And then on that set, another actor was acting out, you know, a bunch of it was awful. He was being rude to the lady director, the female director. So Jim Carrey stepped in and just bored these guys and you know what, and threw them off the set. And so then I said, I don't want to do this. Wow. So that's, and so I just left it alone for years until then I got bored with my bodybuilding. Okay, what do I want to do now? I want to challenge. I always wanted something to challenge me, something that I knew I would be rough at the beginning, but I know I could be good. So
that's interesting. So many people are paralyzed to step into something new because of fear of being not good at it. Like that's a prerequisite to actually learning and doing something is to suck at it first.
Yeah.
Right? Well, Jesse, you definitely have a lot of experiences and stories to share, and you can see that thread of, you know, from the beginning of what you had to deal with and overcome and push yourself to achieve is sort of that, you know, common thread through all the stories that you had. Thank you for sharing those with
You're
us
welcome.
And with the listeners. We want to get to this last segment of the show to find out what you love about the San Gabriel Valley.
So, Jesse, we have this segment, we call it SGV3. Mm-hmm. We want to find out from you, what are some of your favorite things that you've done or places you like to go here in the San Gabriel Valley? Yeah. What memories do you have?
Well, my favorite, when I first started coming to this town, was the architecture of the homes. I've always been intrigued by craftsman homes and Victorian homes, and this is like a haven for craftsmen. The Green and Green brothers, you know, there's the Wrigley home. I mean, they were just, so that number one. And then I always said, I want one of those. And sure enough, in 2000, I built my own brand new Craftsman. I bought a property, and it looked old from early 1900s, but it was so I accomplished my goal there.
Wow!
So that was
right in Pasadena.
It was in Monrovia. It was my second home. First one was in Temple City, and then sold that and built it from ground up. So
wow!
So that I just love the homes and not to mention the people, diversity. And then the Rose Bowl. Oh, that's my second. I love the Rose Bowl. And I'm a huge, like I told you, I used to work with the Cowboys, and I'm a sports fan, like fanatic.
Yeah.
Not the wild and crazy ones that fight or anything.
Yeah.
But I just know a lot, and I follow players, and that place is so iconic.
Yeah.
And
you like to go down and run around the Rose Bowl, or you just like the stadium itself?
Yeah, there, and I've gone to a lot of events there.
Yeah.
And one of my hobbies since I was a kid is antiquing and collecting.
Oh, you go to
I go to the flea market.
Flea market
every month, unless Spielberg calls or something. If not, I'm there.
Right.
It's just that.
Yeah, the Rose Bowl, I have to say, is I lived right next to it for a number of years, and I was always so proud to say I lived next to the Rose Bowl. It's a symbol of something something great.
And everybody sees it on New Year's Day.
Everybody knows it. Yeah,
they call it the granddaddy of them all.
That's right. Yeah,
and it just is so much.
I like
character.
the way that it's unchanging.
Yeah,
it's always the same.
Exactly.
I mean, and the Rose Bowl doesn't give in to other bowl games have, where they've given up the name of their stadium.
Right.
I mean,
there's the Fiesta Bowl, the Orange Bowl.
But now they call it.
Yeah.
They don't call it the Orange Bowl. It's like the FedEx. Whatever. But the Rose Bowl has never given into that. Although they do say presented by Northwestern Life or whatever,
Right.
But they've never actually changed the name. They just, there's just something unchanging and
it is.
Majestic about it.
It's beautiful. Yeah, and just driving by as my teenager years when I had that car that I had bought. Back then in the 80s, was it Colorado Boulevard? I don't know if you lived here then, but it was like Skid Row. It was.
I've heard that. I didn't live
awful.
here then.
It was all boarded up, bums it was just like, it was nasty. But every New Year's, the night before the New Year's, everybody who has cool cars cruises, and everybody, it was like a parade. So that's the only time I had come out here, but it was always in the dark, and I could just barely see the mountains, and when I first, and then I came to one time during the day. I want to go see. happened to be in the freeway. I got off the 210. I'm gonna go see what it's like during the day. I was like, wow, I don't belong here. I better get back. But yeah, so and now look how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But everybody during it, it's all connected to the Rose Bowl game the night before.
Right.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
How about a third?
I would have to say, again, I like old stuff, and I used to go with my stepfather. He was a big gambler, and he used to like to go to the Santa Anita racetrack, and I'd tag along with him.
There's another iconic place.
Still left the same, too.
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't change.
Even the bathroom and the floors. And I go in there sometimes, because I love old.
Yeah.
And I just look around, and I kind of put myself like back in the 20s.
Yeah.
These people who walk through here,
Yeah, the people have walked through there.
Yeah. I would see Farrah Fawcett. I was a kid there.
Yeah.
Jonathan Winters. They were. It was a happening. It was a Hollywood happening.
Yeah. Yes, it was. And there have been a lot of movies filmed there.
Seabiscuit, a bunch of them.
Seabiscuit.
And one time I went, and I had a couple dollars, and I go, I want to bet. And he goes, all right, I'll let you bet. So I bet on this horse, and he goes, which one? I go, that gray one. He goes, that's a dog. I go, what do you mean? He goes, it's a loser one. I think it's cool looking. So I put $2 on it. It was called Vigors, and it was 100 to 1 or 80 to 1.
Yeah.
So I won, $2. So I won $180.
Wow.
And I was so excited.
Did that turn you into a gambler?
No, I just
the worst thing that can happen to a gambler is that you win.
Yeah. But I just was intrigued with that place, and then I'd go and I'd see all these stars, and then as I got older, I would go at parties. Sometimes somebody would have a gathering there or something. So I never really got hooked on that stuff. And then I became, I don't know if you know who Lafitte Pink-Eye Jr. is.
Yeah, of course.
He's one of my best friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does he live in Arcadia?
Yeah, exactly. So all the jockeys, Mike Smith, they're all around here, so I know them personally. And getting to hang out with them. And I told him about that horse.
Oh, yeah.
Lafitte. He goes, I used to ride that horse, Jess.
Really?
Yeah, he goes, it's a good horse.
What year was that?
This had to be 76 to 78, right in there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Really? Who used to ride it? Pink-Eye rode
I
it?
said he rode it a few times, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He goes,
That's
matter of
funny.
fact, he goes, I got a poster with me on it in my house.
Really?
Picture, yeah.
I wonder if jockeys can remember like every horse they rode.
They remember a lot of them, I know that.
Really?
Because you ask them, questions about certain ones, and they become like a good friend to them. You know, they just companion with the horses, horse whisperers they are.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an incredible profession, really, to me.
Yeah,
I mean,
strong as bulls.
Jockey.
Those little guys. Yeah.
Yeah, strong. And what they have to go through every day, like 9 changes, or of.
And the food, how they literally have to starve themselves.
I know. In the like steam room between races or whatever. Yeah.
And then just eat hardly any food. And back then
can't exceed that.
And back then too, there was a lot of substances around too that they would use, and
I bet.
a lot of them got addicted, and
Yeah.
But Lafitte's always, I don't know if you've seen him, but he's veins. He looks like he's got to be close to 80 now. And the guy,
is he that old? Really?
I want to say he's mid 70s at least. Yeah.
Wow.
And he still trains. He looks great.
Who used to go to Matador? I remember
Mike Smith.
Mike Smith, yeah.
Yeah. But I met Victor Espinosa in the gym once, and I didn't know who he was. I saw him. He had 2 tennis balls, and he was doing pull-ups with just the tennis ball like hanging on like the edge.
Oh, those guys. They have to be incredible athletes, don't they? To control a horse?
2,500-pound horse, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Do you know Victor Espinosa is?
I've met him before.
So yeah, I mean, that was the first time I've ever seen.
Wow.
I've never seen anybody do that.
Wow,
besides
I never have either.
Yeah, I mean, his hands are also small too, so maybe there's a lot more protruding out. But yeah, I just remember like he's got some incredible strength to do that. So,
compact, those guys. Wow. It's amazing. Yeah, it's just a gentleman I met one time, and Lafitte, and we became buddies, and then I got introduced to more of them, and I used to tell them the stories when I was a kid, because they were already grown men, and they go, Wow. So it's fun.
Wow, I just really like the way that you like old time things. I just get swallowed up by old things as well.
I'll have to invite you to my house one day.
Oh yeah.
Show you my collection of.
Yeah.
It goes from 20s and it stops at the 70s.
Yeah,
every
which
room
is
has
about
a theme.
when everything should have stopped.
Yeah, every room has. Even the bathrooms have a theme.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll tell a friend, go in the bathroom, but you got to close the door. I go, what are you thinking? We do something to me or something? Yeah, because in the back door there's something. It's something to look at everywhere you go.
Awesome. Well, Jesse, if people want to get a hold of you, how can they reach you?
Right now they can email me at jesse@fitnessforsuccess.net, the number 4. And my Instagram and Facebook is up, but I haven't updated in a while. I've been off of it for a little while, but actually as of this week, I want to I'm going to revamp my career again, my acting career. The last project I did was like 4 years ago with the Coen brothers, the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. So I'm going to start, pandemic came along, that put a damper on things, and then I actually had a very bad leg injury, so I had to rehab that. So as of yesterday, I'm going to start promoting myself again and getting a platform for everybody to get a hold of me. So I will be sending you a link to all my stuff within the next few days.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll be sure to look out for that. Well, Jesse, thanks for sharing your stories and what you've gone through and what you've learned with us and our listeners. I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you. I don't know if you want my phone number too. If you,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that,
sure.
I could, that'd be an easy way too. Is it's area code 626-824-2833.
Awesome.
But yeah, thank you guys for having me. It was a lot of fun, and
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to see you guys at the gym again. And I got to meet Victoria. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So be on the lookout for this episode, Jesse James Youngblood, and we'll be sure to link his contact information in the description below. And thank you again, SGVers, for tuning in to another episode. Again, you can find us at sgvmasterkey.com, on YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. And also check out our Instagram, sgvmasterkey_podcast.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the SGV Master Key. You can find the full back catalog of the SGV Master Key at sgvmasterkey.com and wherever you get your podcasts. This show was produced and edited by Russell Mono and Victoria Allers of Kind Monster Productions. Thanks again for listening or watching. We'll see you again real soon in the next episode.
Nice mother. No, kind mother.